Hey guys, Victor here, coming at you with another deck profile. And for today's video, we're going to be doing an updated Reacue-Ace deck. And this is going to be a pure Reacue-Ace deck, which means that the only end goal that we pretty much have, or the only game plan that we're trying to resolve, is being able to summon Turbulence at some point, and then ideally being able to resolve its effect to set 4 cards. And at that point, the 4 cards that we are setting, combined with hopefully all the hand traps that we currently have in our hand, is going to be more than enough to overwhelm the opponent to be able to ensure that we can win the game as smoothly as possible. So, with that out of the way, let's jump straight into it. As always, we're going to be starting off with the monster lineup first, and as far as like the Reacue-Ace portion is concerned, the monster lineup is basically still the same, and that's perfectly fine, right? However, a lot of the changes that you're going to be seeing in this specific profile actually come in the hand trap portion as well as the spell and trap portion of the list. So with that in mind, we're going to be playing 3 Reacue-Ace Airlifter, who on normal or special is able to search the deck for any of our Reacue-Ace spells, which is typically going to be either the field spell to recycle our resources or the emergency just to get our play started. And then if our opponent decides to activate a monster effect on the field, we can tribute this card from our hand or face-up field in order to special summon another Reacue-Ace monster from our hand. So that pretty much just allows us to like start establishing our board, whether it's our turn or our opponent's turn, as well as just get rid of the potentially giant breaks in our hand that you will eventually draw into, right? So yeah, just being able to pretty much facilitate and start all your plays as well as allow you to just have immediate impact on the field is greatly appreciated. And then to go with our 3 Airlifter, we're playing 3 Reacue-Ace Impulse, whose main effect is basically just like a Fiendish Chain, right? So you just target a monster and then negate its effects, but that effect genuinely doesn't really matter, like, if ever. The main impact that Impulse has is much like Airlifter. If your opponent decides to activate a monster effect on the field, you can tribute this card from your hand or face-up field, and that's a quick effect, right? So you can do it during your turn and your opponent's turn, and then you can special summon any of your machine Reacue-Ace monsters, which is basically every other Reacue-Ace monster in the deck. So, you know, obviously cards like this that just allow you to cheat out high-level monsters that have really powerful effects, like the Turbulence or the Fire Attacker or just like anything else of that nature, is pretty solid. And even if you're bringing out like Hydrant, right, that's still really great too, because it means that your opponent has to answer it immediately. Otherwise, you're just going to be starting to generate way too much advantage for them to handle. So yeah, 3 Impulse, 3 Airlifter, perfectly fine. That's it for the 3 ofs, and then for the 2 ofs, we're playing 2 Reacue-Ace Hydrant. You can play 3, admittedly, but it does get a little breaky, so 2 is perfectly fine. And we have multiple ways to access it, right? So we have, for example, the Impulse that is able to cheat it out from the deck. We have cards like Emergency, 1-for-1, you know, things of that nature. So it's not like we're pressed for ways to actually have access to it at any given moment. And that's it for that one. And then the only other 2 of Reacue-Ace monster we're playing is Reacue-Ace Preventer, who this is, if you provided you have like another face-up Reacue-Ace monster, this is a quick play Book of Moon, right? And effects like that are honestly really useful, just helping you prevent your opponent from being able to establish like a big board or just interrupt them during key moments that they otherwise would have needed a monster. And this is really evident in matchups such as like Malice, right, which is a predominantly a link deck. And if you're able to like Book of Moon, say a Dormouse, there are a lot of times where that just can end the game right then and there. But yeah, Preventer, really solid. And as if that wasn't already good enough, when this card goes to the graveyard, this is also another free way of being able to recycle your banished Reacue-Ace monsters, which, yeah, you know, pretty solid stuff, being able to Book of Moon and then just generate resources after it leaves the field. And that's it for the 2 ofs. And then for the 1 ofs, we have the 1 of Reacue-Ace Turbulence. You resolve it, you win the game, simple as that, as it literally just sets all your Reacue-Ace spells and traps from the deck. And ideally, you want to hold off on summoning this until you can guarantee that this effect is going to be able to resolve. So yeah, don't just like shotgun it, because there are certain situations where if this card gets like Impermed or Veiler, you're just not going to be in a very good spot, truth be told. Then we're also playing the 1 of Fire Attacker, which is really important for when you're going second, right? And this is probably going to be like one of the main ones that I tend to just like summon off of Impulse if I'm going second, just because if our opponent decides to activate a monster effect on the field, this one will allow us to draw 2 cards and discard 1. So that means it's going to be able to basically just dig through our deck a little bit deeper and then ideally get us into the hand traps that we desperately need in order to prevent our opponent from just full comboing. And then for the final Reacue-Ace monster, we're playing the 1 Reacue-Ace Fire Engine, which is able to special summon a level 4 lower Reacue-Ace monster from our hand, deck, or graveyard. So if you have like this in your hand and you summon it off the Airlifter, for example, that's pretty great, as you can summon this out and then your opponent decides to activate something and then you bring back the Airlifter and trigger it that way. But truth be told, it's probably my least favorite of all the Reacue-Ace monsters, but it's still pretty solid at what it does. And that's it for the Reacue-Ace engine. And then for all the hand traps that we're going to be playing, We're going to be playing 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, just good generic fun that allows us to deal with a lot of variety. 3 Droll Lockbird because Mitsurugi Raizio is probably the best deck and it just searches way too much. 3 Mulcharmy Fuwalos. So this normally I would never like main deck Mulcharmies, right? But I feel like in the case of this deck, going second is just too much of a hurdle. And even though like going first, this isn't like the greatest card in the world, the reward that you gain from playing something like Mulcharmy Fuwalos in a deck like this is perfectly great, especially compared to like the decks that I normally would play. But you know, it's fine. It's basically max C, right? And that card's pretty good. But yeah, 3 Fuwalos to allow us to draw more cards, ideally more hand traps. And that's it for the 3 ofs. And then for the 2 ofs, we're just playing 2 Effect Veiler to help round out the monster lineup. And with that, that's the monster lineup, and now we can finally move on to the spell and trap portion of the video. Now that we're on the spell and trap portion of the video, there's only going to be one spell that we're playing at 3, and that just so happens to be the best one, being Emergency. So this card on its own basically just does so much for the deck, right? And there's a reason why this is pretty much going to be your primary target for cards like Airlifter, and that's because you're able to special summon a Rescue-Ace monster from your deck, and then you have to tribute a Rescue-Ace monster that's either in your hand or on your side of the field. So there's just so many different cool plays that you can make with this, and the monster that you summon can also be tributed for this. So if you just need like fodder in the graveyard to summon a Turbulence out from your hand, you can do that, right? Like you just go activate Emergency, special summon a monster, send that same monster, banish both of them, summon Turbulence. That's just one of those many things that you can do. Like there's just so many different places this opens up, right? You can use it to dodge cards like Infinite Impermanence or Effect Veiler just by holding it. If you have like a Preventer in your deck, for example, and you have a banished Rescue-Ace monster, you can special summon that Preventer, tribute that Preventer, and then Preventer's effect will trigger to be able to bring back the banished monster. And like there's just like the amount of things that this singular card allows you to do is just unrivaled, and it's pretty much a no-brainer to have to play it at 3. And then for the 1-ofs, because we're not playing any 2-ofs, we're playing 1 Alert, which either lets us add a Rescue-Ace monster from our graveyard to our hand, or if we control Hydrant, allows us to search our deck for any Rescue-Ace monster instead. So, you know, being able to either recycle a resource or get access to a key resource from our deck, greatly appreciated. And then we're also playing the 1-of Rescue, which basically allows us to either reborn one of our Rescue-Ace monsters, or if we happen to have Hydrant as well, we're able to take one of our opponent's monsters instead. So this basically acts as like a pseudo DD Crow or something like that, of that nature, right? Where, or I guess like a more apt comparison would be Shark Cannon, where you're able to just disrupt your opponent's plays, especially if it's like a Mermail deck, right? They go normal summon Prince, send Dragoons for cost, you chain your rescue to it as long as you have Hydrant on the field, and then you're able to take the Dragoons before it can trigger. And yeah, this card pretty silly when it's able to do things like that. And then for the final 1 of Rescue-Ace, the Rescue-Ace HQ, which just lets us recycle all of our resources back into the deck, be able to draw a card, and this is really important for just being able to go for a second Turbulence effect during our second turn, provided we're not able to finish off our opponent. And that's it for the Rescue-Ace cards. And then for the other good, powerful 1-of limited spells that we're playing, because there are a lot, we're playing Pot of Prosperity just to allow us to dig through our deck a little bit more consistently. The 1-for-1, which basically acts as a third copy of Rescue-Ace Hydrant. Triple Tactics Talent to punish our opponent for hand trapping us. 1 Call by the Grave to potentially prevent a devastating hand trap from hitting us. 1 Reinforcement of the Army to be able to search out either our Airlifter or our Impulse, because they both happen to be warriors. And then we have the 1 Crossout Designator, because we do play a large variety of hand traps, so being able to play something like Designator and then call that card so that it doesn't get used on us is greatly appreciated. And we have like all the hand traps that we already mentioned, right? So we have like the Effect Veiler, the Ash Blossom, which is probably going to happen every single time. Even something like Fuwalos can be pretty detrimental for a deck like this sometimes, even though we're very capable of just going Turbulence pass. But, you know, it's better to be safe than sorry. And that's it for the spells. And then for the traps, we're also playing 2 Infinite Impermanence just to... because it's obviously like a really good card, right? It's literally just Effect Veiler, but we can use it during our turn and our opponent's turn. And this also makes for like another phenomenal target for our Crossouts, provided we're able to draw the 1-of. But that's it for the 2-of for the traps. And then lastly, we have the other 2 cards that we set off to Turbulence, being the 1 Contain and the 1 Extinguish, which is just more interaction that our opponent is probably going to struggle breaking through. So with that, that's the main deck, 40 cards like always, and now we can finally move on to the extra deck. Now when it comes to the extra deck for this specific deck, there's definitely room for improvement, at least on my end. just because there's so many different options that you can go with. And like, for example, I could be main decking Super Poly, but I just chose not to for this specific variant. But that's a very possible situation that you may run into when you're playing with or against Reacue-Ace, where you just get Super Poly'd out of the blue and you lose your entire board. But we'll save that for a different video, right? But even so, for this one, we're going to be starting off with the one Exceed we play, being the one Super Starslayer Ty-phon Sky Crisis, which just allows us to potentially break boards that we normally wouldn't be able to. And in a deck like this, even though you can't summon anymore, that's perfectly fine because we play so many hand traps, right? So we just slap down the Ty-phon, we break the opponent's board, and then with the hand traps that we have, they typically just can't answer us back, ideally. And that's it for the Exceeds. And then for the Links, we're playing the one Relinquished Anima just to be able to turn our Hydrant into this, and then it basically just becomes like another interruption, right? As a lot of people just refuse to play around the extra monster zone, and they are constantly caught off guard, thus they get to lose one key resources that they would much rather just keep in most situations. And then we're playing the one Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf to be able to add back all of our fire monsters, which is literally every Reacue-Ace monster in Ash Blossom. We're playing one Hiita the Fire Charmer Ablaze because this deck is predominantly still made up of fire monsters, and you will be hit by Ash Blossom at some point, so this card is very much live. We're playing the one IP Masquerena, which is typically going to be used to go into the SP Little Knight to banish a card, but we do play some other monsters in the extra deck that we can summon to take advantage of the IP Masquerena, such as Knightmare Phoenix in case we want to blow up back row, or Knightmare Cerberus if we want to destroy a special summon monster. Now, obviously, SP Little Knight pretty much answers everything that these two do, but there are certain situations where you have to like burn the Little Knight early, so having like a backup plan in the form of Phoenix and Cerberus is greatly appreciated. And that's it for the Link 2s. And then for the Link 3s, just in case those three weren't enough, we still have like a Nightmare Unicorn as well, just to be able to bounce back another card and hopefully get our game plan across. Then for the only other Link 3 that we're playing two Promethean Princess Bestower of Flames. This ideally, or not ideally, but honestly, this could be played at one. It genuinely wouldn't matter, but there are just certain situations where you play against something like a Kashtira Unicorn, and they rip away the one princess or Promethean Princess, and we just rather avoid that at all costs. So, yeah, two Princess perfectly fine, but if you want to start cutting cards, this is probably where I would start. Then for the rank 4s, we have the Raging Phoenix, which allows us to OTK our opponent. The Zealantis, which is also used in conjunction with the Raging Phoenix to OTK our opponent more easily. And then we have the one Amphibious Swarm Ship Amblowell, which if you're going first, this is probably going to be like the ideal end board piece, just because you just leave it up here and then you're going to pop it with your Promethean Princess at some point, and then it flows into other Link monsters like your IP Masquerena or just whatever you happen to have in the graveyard. But yeah, this card, perfectly fine, but it's absolutely not needed. And then for the final monster, we're playing one Underworld Goddess of the Close Rope because there are just some boards you cannot break naturally. So you have to rely on something like this to be able to get, or to answer those key specific monsters. And with that, that's the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!